That was weird.
And we're back.
Yeah, my internet was like, yeah, you're not connected anymore. Like, okay, cool. Thanks. A plus Comcast.
Cheerio.
Yeah, so what I was saying was if the federal government were to call for a national quarantine or put quarantine restrictions on people or call for like quarantine guidelines, whatever they could, right? Then it would qualify as a natural disaster, and therefore companies could claim it like uh, like it's covered under their insurance. Does that sound right?
Possibly,
Okay.
but I mean, a national emergency was declared, and there's already been guidelines set out by the federal government that, although don't equate to like
They're not good.
quarantine, I know, like, I mean, all non-elective procedures. I mean, all elective procedures, like like your life
Life
isn't at
threatening.
risk.
Yeah.
Yeah, dental stuff is all canceled. Like, there's a lot of shit that's canceled now. So, I mean, I just found out like literally while we were frozen that my wife got laid off. Yeah,
What?
company laid off every single one of their workers.
How? Wait.
And
Okay.
so apparently, a lot of companies are doing this because this isn't the first. Like when she told me that, I was like, all right, I actually kind of saw this coming. It's so they can all collect unemployment because the company
Oh.
can't pay them and
Okay.
can't support their hours. So
Okay.
they just lay off everyone and then say, hey, when we open up our doors, we'll rehire you all,
Bring
basically.
everybody back. Okay.
But allows them to collect unemployment while they can't go
Yeah.
to work.
That makes sense. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
but I was talking to someone else I know about it, and but essentially they're a small business owner, and they're saying if everyone does that though, then unemployment insurance across the board is going to skyrocket when this is all over, and
Yeah, to make
massively
up.
small businesses if this just becomes like the standard practice, lay off everyone, because that hikes up unemployment insurance, and that is going to hurt a lot of small businesses more than the bigger ones.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting depending on how long all this lasts. Like the the most conservative projections put it at like 3 months, 4 months. Middle of summer, like going to the end of summer, and then the more aggressive estimates put it as like going into next year.
Pretty much until a vaccine comes around.
Yeah, which is a little weird because the people who need the vaccine are people over the age of 70.
So what I've heard is there's been some repeat cases too for people that get stuck in hospitals, like people that test negative after they've gotten rid of it and then end up getting it again. So it's not necessarily because I know because it is so new in our system. Like it's not
Yeah,
necessarily you know. Although those people might be immune deficient, like who knows what some of the
yeah.
causes are in those cases. There's so many unknowns right now. Like
Oh, so I was talking to Ashley the other day, and so have you seen the nickname that they've given it?
which one?
Boomer remover.
Oh my! I have not seen that one.
It's fucking so that's fucking awful. It's funny because it's still distant for me, and I mean it's if it affects me personally, obviously it's going to be sad, and it's obviously sad for anybody who's affected negatively by it. It's horrible. I'm not laughing at their um like not laughing at their sadness or their loss. That's not. I just think so the reason I really laugh is because it made me think if there was a disease that someone was going to create and they wanted to clear out the people that they would say are putting the biggest drain on the economy and have nothing left to give back to the economy, wouldn't this be the one? Something that doesn't affect children, doesn't affect middle-aged people, doesn't affect anybody who's still like of active working age, and only affects people who are basically retired.
Yeah.
Wouldn't this be the one? And wouldn't it be that they wouldn't do anything to stop it and they would make sure that every country got it just to make sure it cleared out all of the people that are a drain, what they consider a drain on the economy? Wouldn't this be the one?
I'll say I don't know. I've been somewhat annoyed by a lot of the conspiracy theory aspect of it, just because
I'm
of
not.
how
I'm not
and I know
saying it
you're just
is.
getting I know you're just finding a chuckle out of it, but like I mean, yeah, it's kind of I'm gonna be a huge downer now. It's kind of one of those things where it's all fun and games until oh hey, my parents are both in their 70s.
Yep.
Like that's what comes to my mind. Like my wife's parents, my in-laws, they're pushing close to 80 and they're not in the best health already. Like
I know, and that
yeah.
sucks. And it's terrible because there's a especially in this. Okay, so do you know which country did the best with it?
I've seen some reports. I've heard Vietnam did very well with it. I've heard
South
um,
Korea.
South Korea. Yeah, they're. I mean, yeah,
There's a really good graph that it shows how many tests were produced per 1 million people, and South Korea was like it's so far off the board, like you can't even see it. And that was the biggest thing, and that was the same thing in China. That's the reason why they've been able to go back to like somewhat normal life is wasn't the fact that they were under like they called for like a national quarantine and because it's a totalitarian regime essentially and they can basically just tell everybody to do it and then they follow. That wasn't it. The reason why is because they got everybody tested
yeah.
while they were in quarantine. So then the people who had it, they're like, okay, stay there, wait another like a couple of weeks and make sure you're not infectious to anybody, and then go back to normal.
You
And
mean they practice basic epidemiology just for
yeah,
diseases? Yeah.
yeah, there's a really big problem. There's also this lackadaisical attitude towards it, and the thing that upsets me the most is because it's my gut, it's almost my gut response as well. It's like when there's something like this, like whether it be swine flu, I don't want to compare it to them because it's not the same thing at all. So it's
Mhm.
much more it's much easierly contracted and much easier to spread. So it's not doesn't have the same kind of impact that swine flu did. It's much worse. It's more in the lines of like the Spanish flu before they had like really
You
good
should.
hospitals back in 1918.
I sent you a video that one of the flight docs made up in Elmendorf in Alaska. Essentially, it was the brief that he gave his wing commander on it, and they just
Okay.
posted it on YouTube. It's like 15 minutes. I've just been sending it around to everyone because it's the perfect explanation of what this disease is, why we're doing what we're doing, and basically like how to actually combat it.
Yeah. So there was a um, there's a like an interesting thing that happens, especially with people who are in good shape. Like they figure, oh, well, I'm gonna be fine, and then that's where their brain stops.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, rightfully so. We're humans, and by nature, we're all inherently selfish biologically. Like we care about our biology on average more than anybody else's, and that boils down to I care about me more than anyone else, and that's just human nature, and I understand it. Okay, that's a biological urge, and it's a natural impulse. But then a lot of people don't have like the next thought. It's like, oh, I could spread this to other people, right? They just think like, oh, I'm gonna be fine, so I don't care if I get it. That's great, and I'm glad you're gonna be okay, right? And especially because most people are gonna be asymptomatic anyway, right? They're gonna be asymptomatic. They're not gonna have any like real ramifications at all. So why should they care? Well, you should care because you're gonna kill someone's grandma.
Yeah.
That's why. Like you're gonna kill someone's dad. And I say that like it sounds like I'm being a little hyperbolic, but I'm not. Like
But that's
you might be the
that is
reason why someone's dad dies.
that is happening right now, and it's
Yeah.
going to continue to happen at a escalating rate, especially in the next
Yeah,
couple
it's
coming
pretty
weeks.
it's pretty bad. There was I was looking at the current numbers and every single day like I was like when I was at work last week, I was telling people like cuz it was at the beginning of March it was 0
Hmm.
and it was still 0, still 0. Then it was 20, 200, 400. Now I told people they're like, "Oh, it's only 400 people." I'm like,
Do you know how
"That's
doubling rate works?
yeah." Well, I said I before I said that, I was like, the first thing is we don't have tests, so we actually do not know how many people have it. Second, those 20 people give it each one of those people give it on average to what was it 9 Even let's say they only give it to 2 more people.
Yeah.
Okay, let's so this just double, right?
You really
Like
should
let's
watch
say
that video I sent you because it breaks down the math of how doubling rate works. And even if you reduce it down to I only give it to one person a week, you still see a rate at which it essentially the number of cases double every single week and how that ends up projecting out going from like, all right, cool, it's 2 cases this week. Then it's 4 cases next week.
yep.
Then it's 8 cases. And then, even if you're doing minimal contact and you spread it to only 2 people, which is incredibly easy to do because you only have to breathe it out,
Yep.
it, that doubling effect becomes massive. What they testified already is that their CDC is expecting possibly between 70 and 120 million cases in the United States.
Yeah, like
Which,
the conservative estimate was like 50 million people, and
yeah,
like the on the high end, the aggressive one was 150 million. So essentially half of
which
all United States residents.
if you take on the low end 70 million, what does a 2% mortality rate look like at 7 million or 70 million? That's
Yeah, and then if you
that's
want to go deeper into
it's
that,
almost
if you
15
want
million
to,
people dying from this.
right, and if you go deeper into those actual numbers and you look at who's really dying, what you're going to get is a 10 to 20%, depending on their honestly, it's going to be their social class. That's really what it's going to be. I
I mean,
It's going to
the
be
biggest
down
risk
to like how much
factors,
money and
the biggest risk factors, age, obesity, and existing respiratory and heart conditions. That
yes,
is, that's part of why Italy's getting hit so bad because they have an
because they're
elder
the
population
yes.
that is out of like.
Yeah,
And
and here's what's it's sad about like this whole thing is people who have the means to be hospitalized for longer periods of time and like can get covered for longer. Their chances of making it through this is going to be a lot higher than someone who can't or doesn't have the means to do that. So what you're going to see is like like I said, it's been I think what was a high end 20% of people who have high risk who are a high risk factor end up passing away.
sorry, if you're over 80, the mortality rate is between like 15 to 18%.
That's what. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So that's what I mean. Is if you're of a certain age group, you're mostly who's dying, and if you look at those numbers, like it's not 1 in 5, but that's crazy. That's so many people.
And here's something to put out there. There's how many people die in the U.S. annually? 2.8 million. So we're talking about multiplying that number just based off this, just based off this pandemic, if it runs its full course and
That
is
yes,
even,
that
yeah.
plus you also have to add in the deaths and natural causes. Like those 2.5 million on average that pass away every year in the United States, a certain
I mean,
percentage of them are still going to pass away from natural causes.
I
Plus,
mean,
you add
I mean,
on.
I mean that's from everything. That's heart disease, it's cancer, accidents,
Well,
like
well, I,
the
well, I
whole
know,
game.
but that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. So like, you add in that because people are like, I don't know if anybody's talking about it because no one's focusing on it, but people are still going to die of the flu.
Yeah.
So there's that. Then there's this. There's COVID-19 plus literally anything else that people could die from. Like
And there's
I wouldn't be
also
surprised if it was over like
it's
8
also
million.
not just like it's not just deaths. There's also people they don't necessarily know what it's going to look like long term if you have a severe reaction to this. So people coming out of like hospitals that actually have bad lung conditions now and scarring on their lungs. So like
Yeah,
even if you get a
permanent
nasty
damage.
case of even if you get a nasty case of this, like we don't necessarily know what it's going to look like on the other end. Yeah, it's crazy. I've never seen a time like this.
Um,
Not
yeah,
like
this hasn't
not
happened
like
in our
this.
lifetime. Yeah, this kind of event hasn't happened in our lifetime. It's happened before, and it's been worse. Like, um, the Spanish influenza was probably I think it was the worst.
And see, here's the
But
thing,
that
like
was
we say that now, but we don't necessarily know yet. Like we don't know if 2 years from now we're going to be kind of what it's.
well, no, but also the Spanish flu. You have to remember the reason why it killed so many people is because We didn't have the same medical procedures that we do now. We didn't have the same facilities and the
Plus,
amount of technology.
plus World War One. Plus,
Yeah, but also you have to remember that there wasn't that many people in 1918. So 20 million, like that's a lot. That was a large percentage of the population.
so interesting thing I actually read based off the Spanish flu. Also, it's in that video I sent you as one of the kind of like side by sides for why we are doing this social distancing right now.
Yeah.
Is there was war bonds parades that were happening around the country at the time of the Spanish flu. So like states like Philadelphia or cities like Philadelphia, they're still having huge parades and gatherings. And then St. Louis, the mayor of St. Louis shut it down. He said, no, we're not doing that. And if you look at essentially the disease rate and how it ran through those cities in comparison to places that did not have war bonds parades versus places that still continued having them, it's pretty much the model for how you would want a disease to run through a community compared to the worst case scenario.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem is there's like the biggest problem I have with everybody's attitude towards this is like we don't need to like wait and to have hindsight like, oh, we should have done this like there. And it wasn't that because there's been things in the past where people are like, oh, there were warnings, there were signs. Yeah, no, I understand that. You didn't even need those. There were no like warnings and signs like that you needed to follow. It was literally just like, hey, there's just a disease over there. Okay, so how do we prevent it from coming here? Oh, we take these precautions, and then we know that there's a good chance it can get here. So how do we prevent it from spreading out very quickly? Oh, well, we could do this. And the country that did that the best, South Korea. South Korea and Singapore. Singapore was really good, but they're also like a ridiculously clean country. That's not a fair comparison.
Something I will say to both those countries too, which I think is also a hard comparison, is infrastructure. Like, I mean, even if you just look at basics of infrastructure, like utilities, internet speed, like travel in those countries, like those countries are as streamlined and first world as you get in terms of infrastructure and how you can move and not move. Like, it's pretty easy to see how countries like that could have that response. I would expect a very similar response in places like Germany, Estonia,
or
some
here,
of the Norwegian countries. We don't really have, like, not to disparage the United States, not the best infrastructure.
I mean, yeah, I guess. I think we're.
I just think
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying, and I agree that Singapore especially because Singapore is the.
It's a city state.
Yeah,
let's be honest. I love Singapore. It's one of like the most shining examples of capitalism on the hill.
I was about to say that. That was. Yeah, I was about to say like that is the epitome of what everybody wants capitalism to be like is Singapore. And like with very little restrictions on businesses and everything else, and it's like they have what's the population of Singapore? It's got to be tiny.
I'm gonna bet 15 mil.
5.6.
I'm okay with that outcome for the city or for the whole country.
Singapore, the entire country, 5.6 million. Oh, that was in 2017, so
I'm okay with how close I was. Huh?
Yeah, that's why I'm like, that's it. That's the population of what? 2 Chicagos?
I mean, that's basically the population of like New York.
No, that's half. I think New York has 10 million, doesn't it?
Does New York have 10?
It's got to be. But anyway, like,
you're right.
Yeah, it's got to be 10 million. Holy crap! Tokyo has 37 million. Good grief! All right, whatever.
You feel it when you're there too. Whew. You're like, oh yeah, I get it. It's just like stacking downtown Chicago, but just everywhere. Everywhere you go is just downtown Chicago.
So there was a part of me initially when that was kind of dismissive of all this the same way as everyone else was. But then as the data started to roll in and how how the United States, like the federal government, responded and what they were saying, it kind of dawned on me that it wasn't going to just like appear and go away really quick, and that everything was going to kind of become a shitstorm. And I I wouldn't say like I'm not one of those people who's panicking like, oh, we're all gonna die. I don't think that like that's not
No.
what this is. What I think is gonna happen is we're gonna end up being in a it's we were naturally headed towards a recession anyway. Just the ebb and
And
flow.
that is one of the hard things, is we've been in the longest period of growth
I know
in U.S. economic history. So it's kind of just been that, like, what's going to cause it. The
it's
positives that I've heard, though, in terms of like how this is going to turn out a recession, is that as long as this isn't so prolonged that businesses can't, like, as long as it's as long as businesses are able to open their doors back up, you should see an effective bounce back.
yeah. You know what? I
But if
was
this goes
okay.
on long enough to where some businesses can't open up doors again, like, there's going to be some long term
So
recovery that's going to need to take place.
the way I looked at it was I thought it's going to be one of those catalysts for expedient change and something that's going to push people into like the next big advancement, the next sweeping rollout of business and economic changes. Like I don't have one in my head right now of
Like
something
the
that
universal
causes.
basic income we might be about to get for the next couple
Okay,
months.
that's not what I was talking about. No, no. What I mean is it's gonna cause companies to streamline their processes. Like what this is gonna do is it's gonna cause companies to cut the most extraneous expenditures first, right? They're gonna say, "Oh, like this isn't making us this much money, or it's actually costing us money. So we're gonna cut this first, and then they're gonna slowly streamline their process and to get down to the bare minimum, right? Which includes having people come into work, maybe also not needing as much space, like having a
Yes.
smaller footprint. Yeah.
I know
So
exactly where you're going
it's
with
gonna
this, and I was thinking the same thing. You're going to see a lot more work from home.
well, that's
Not
what I
having
mean.
to
Is
rent
that
as
it's
much
gonna
office space. Like, think about minimal
exactly
office space, minimal utilities. Yeah.
right. So we might see. I mean, in the long run, you might actually see a more natural reclamation project. So, like a lot of these businesses that are no longer needed, like we're going to see more forests and things like that. So, like long term, this could be an ultra positive for the
Oh, yeah.
environment and like everything that we live with. But then also think about it. If a company is cutting all of these expenditures just to make it in like a time of hardship, when it's a time of plenty or a time of normalcy again, guess what? Like you are going to make more money, be more efficient throughout the entire process, and you can start building from the ground up again. It's like I don't want to say. I hesitated to say trim the fat because like that's some people's jobs, and I don't want to be demeaning. Like I want to be as um like precise and exact with my words as possible because I understand that for some people this is going to
Also,
be really painful.
and I think there's a level of, you know, law of, conservation of energy when it comes to the economy. Like, when the fat gets trimmed from somewhere, like, that workforce energy eventually goes somewhere else, even if it's not in the same company. Like,
Yeah,
as
that's what
every
I know.
technological advance comes, there seems to be a way that the mechanism expands to absorb the population to a
Yeah.
certain to a certain effect, as far as we've seen.
So I think the biggest thing, the most optimistic, yeah, like one of the more positive outlooks that I have on this is it's really gonna allow people to work from home more because they realize like their jobs don't require a lot of face-to-face time, and it's gonna require companies to really have robust like communication stuff, and also it's going to force companies like Comcast, AT&T to not be so shitty when it comes to their infrastructure because
Yep.
it's terrible here. Um,
It's ter This entire country's internet's terrible. Let's be honest.
no, in places like frickin' like the middle of nowhere Kansas where Google was like, "Oh, we're going to put in fiber here." Thanks, Google. The four people really appreciate it. How about you bring
Yeah.
it to somewhere that like where people are, please?
But do you know why they put it there? Because it cost them nothing.
I know. I know
That's the
why
same
they
reason
did
they
it.
put data centers in, like, the
I've been
in
yeah,
like
I've been
Wyoming.
there. Yeah,
Yeah,
I know what I've been to all of
you
them,
you know what I'm
and I
talking
know.
about.
Yes, yeah. So I remember that's where I used to work was in data centers. So I've been to a lot of the
Hence where
major
Super Lunch
ones.
Bros really began.
Yes. So I've been to the ones in North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa. Dude, the ones in Iowa, it's it's corn, 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 giant data center, corn, corn, corn.
It's farm,
Like,
farm, 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 electric farm, 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 farm.
yeah, yeah. So I'm hoping that this turns into a big positive when everybody comes out of it, and also I hope that people like during natural disasters and times of hardship, people they tend to become more empathetic for a little bit and sympathetic and empathetic to people's needs. And there's certain things that I love, and I understand that they're small, and in the grand scheme of things, they're not going to change like the entire world. But who knows? Maybe one of those people can. I'm referring to like NBA players, like Zion Williamson said, like I'm going to pay all the employees from the Pelicans, I forget, Smoothie King Arena, or right, or Giannis. I think Giannis Antetokounmpo was saying he's going to pay people, and like Mark Cuban was the first one. He was like, "Hey, I'm going to pay everybody. I'm going to give
And
them all wages and stuff."
and I think that's hopefully something that comes out of this is companies realizing that they could spend more on their employees. That
Yeah.
yeah, that like less of that expansion necessarily has to go towards physical expansion and more can go towards, you know, kind of that environment of actually taking care of the people. Because I will say there's one business definitely being hit by this is construction. Super hard because companies no longer have that projected income. Like,
Oh,
yeah,
never even thought about that.
my brother-in-law, he builds, I mean, he has an industrial construction company, so he builds, you know, restaurants, you know, hospitals, like just tons of different small businesses, car dealerships. Well, every single project he has on the books for the next year just got canceled because none of those companies have projected income now. So none
Huh.
of them are, yeah, all of them are canceling every single project for expansion that they had. So that, I mean, if he is seeing that with a small business he has, I guarantee you construction across the board is pretty much just going to halt in this country till they figure out what the economy is going to look like after this.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. But then I really think we've been. I can't speak to the entire world because like I really haven't
Oh,
kept up to date. But what I can speak to is more specifically is Illinois and how things are run here. Um,
how's it
first
going?
of
It's been a while.
oh,
I was supposed to come back in April. That got canceled. How's it going there?
it's it's going. Oh, okay. Real side note. It's just a side note here. The governor, Mister, I,
Pritzker?
dude, that,
Yes.
that guy looks like he's always out of breath. It looks like he just got done running, and he's like, and he's always red. He's always beat red. The dude looks like he's like minutes away from a heart attack at all times.
And say what you want about his family. I do actually have a lot of respect for the family he comes from. If you've never
I
been
don't
to the
know.
Pritzker Military Library downtown, I think it's one of the low key, like, best museums in the city.
Oh,
And a lot
so
of
I
his
don't.
family has all served in. It was started by one of his family members, which was a brigadier general in the National Guard for Illinois.
Oh, that's
And like
cool.
a lot of his families have contributed a lot of service to the state and country. Yeah.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, you should definitely check out
I
with your family when all this passes over. Pritzker Military Library, downtown Chicago. It's amazing.
yeah, I'm not. I don't know anything about his family nor him as a person. All I can say is when they were rolling these things out when he did a couple things that I liked when they canceled the St. Patty's Day parade and all that other stuff. So I liked that, but then also there was a bunch of nincompoops. Let's go with that. Who are like, well, I'm not fucking gonna. I'm gonna go celebrate. It's St. Patrick's Day. I'm gonna go drink anyway. So millions of people went downtown and were drinking in bars. And then Pritzker was like, hey, jackasses. Like I said, like you weren't supposed to do that. Now everybody's like, now we've just we basically he didn't say it, but he's like, basically you've just given everybody this disease now. Congratulations, you morons. It's like, and he came out and say that he was a little bit more eloquent than I was, but anyway. Um, so One thing that I didn't like, though, is that in that same speech, they asked him, like, oh, what about voting? Oh, he's like, oh, we're still going to vote. I'm like, why? Like, you mean let's go, like, go to a place where the average age of the voter is like over 50, and the people taking those votes are definitely in their 60s or 70s, right? The people who work
Do,
in those.
do you know where they have polling places? In nursing homes. I know
Yeah,
this because I volunteered on a congressional campaign. They have polling places in, like, literally in nursing homes
yeah. So
in
that's what I
Illinois.
mean. That's what I mean. Is there's a like, I, I don't want to get into the political side of it,
Yeah,
but
and I can't, but
it made me upset when he said he's like, "Oh, we still need to vote," and the reasoning was he didn't. Maybe he has a really good reason, and maybe it was better if he would have written it down and then put it in a notice. But
so
real what he
this isn't
well,
actually something that necessarily came from him. This came directly from the DNC, which is interesting to, like, just on an objective level. Like, they started essentially pushing down that if you delay it, the amount of delegates coming from your state will be reduced. So
oh,
essentially, your state will have less of a say from a delegate perspective, which is,
fine.
you know, which is, like I said, from a completely apolitical standpoint, it's just an interesting move by the DNC. But
Which, as we
yeah,
know, they've been so upright and forthcoming with all of their other things.
I'm just gonna
What
have
what
my
a
drink.
what an epitome of
Yeah, yeah.
the epitome of humanity and upstanding citizenship. Fuck. Anyway, so when he said that, his reasoning was, like I said, he could have said a lot of things that would have come across a lot better. Like if he would have said, "Hey, if we're taking the right precautions, we're going to be doing these things in the polling places. We're going to limit the amount of people that are allowed to come in the building. We're going to be doing a blah 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 blah." Right? He could have said
Or
all
even
those
saying,
things.
or even putting down age limitations for different blocks. From this time
Yeah,
to this time, we're only doing 60 and up. From this time to this time, we'll do 40 to 60.
right.
Put down age ranges and
Sure.
do it over like 2 days.
Literally anything would have been better than what he said. He said, "Well, if we don't vote now, when are we supposed to vote?" Cool, thanks, bud. uh, definitely captain of the debate team.
Hmm.
Oh, if we don't do it now, we're never gonna do it. It's no stupid. Let's go vote. Thanks, bud. Thank you.
Flawless logic.
I know that makes me feel so safe. Yeah, and I'm not one of those people. Like I said, I'm not concerned about me. I'm honestly not even that concerned about my immediate family, like my wife, my girls. Most likely are like there's no reason to be super worried. Maybe about the long term, like like if it does damage your lungs long term, like that probably isn't great. But it doesn't look like that affects people who are younger that way, and it's very unlikely. So I'm not super worried about them. What I am worried about though is having to go into work and working with people who still live with their parents or who take care of an elderly parent or a grandparent, and then me being asymptomatic and not like I don't know that I have it, or someone gives it to me and like yeah, and like I said, like I wouldn't know, and now all of a sudden I pass it along and someone's family member dies because they're like, hey, we need to get stuff done at work. I'm like, I get that, I get it, but there's a lot
But
of
do you need to?
so
Let's talk about the word need.
the place I work is actually doing something semi-pragmatic, I would say. I'd say it's yeah, it's what they're doing is pretty intelligent, and the guy in charge, one of the guys in charge, obviously the GM of our branch is very like he's an intelligent guy, but then also there's a former Navy dude who's pretty much like the co-pilot of the company at this point,
Did you say
and
he's the Master Chief?
he was a bubblehead, so he's a little weird. But anyway, no, I love the dude to death. I really do. He's fantastic, and he's uh, he's very calm about everything, but he understands people's like worries. And what they've decided to do is split it into 4 day shifts, 3 day really, three and a half. So you do one group is working Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and they're working 12-hour days, right? And then the other group is working Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 12-hour days to get all their hours. And then we split Sunday. So half of us work on Sunday, the other half. So we're not all going to be in the same building at the same time. We're going to limit the amount of exposure we have to each other, and that's awesome. The problem I have with it is like surface exposure and things like I wish like and they've done a pretty good job of having like a crew come in and sanitize things more often, and that's awesome, and people are um being um being more aware of like what they're touching and what they're doing at work, which is cool. um and I like all that. It still makes me uncomfortable.
That
And
shit. Like
it's what I really like. It feels like a couple years from now, like we could look back and be like, wow, that was really stupid what we did. Do you know what I mean? It
yes.
feels like that's what's going on now. And it's like, yes, there might be a loss in the short term, but in the long term, like the business actually might not lose anything. The business might float along and, do perfectly fine. It's the loss. I hope this doesn't happen. Like, I hope nobody loses anybody because that's fucking horrendous. But like that kind of stuff that you can't measure, um, you know, so man, this is such a downer. Ah,
All right. So this probably isn't much more of a or much less of a downer. But let's talk about the fights.
oh, that's what I was gonna get to next. I was
Yeah.
like,
I think we're at that point. Let's talk about the fights.
oh, do you remember when I
Everyone's dealing
said,
with this stuff.
dude, we jinxed it? I told you we were gonna fucking do it. I told you
Hold
we were
on.
gonna do it.
Hold on. I don't think we jinxed it
I
because
think
it
we
took
did.
a pandemic, a global pandemic, to get the greatest fight of all time postponed.
Dude, actually, so I think the UFC needs to cut their losses here. I think one, we jinxed it because we talked about it. I said that we shouldn't. People were talking about it. We all jinxed it. Like yeah, I told you, it's like a no hitter. You don't talk about it till it happens. Anyway, past that point, I think the UFC is the reason this pandemic happened. Now let me explain.
Go for it, please.
The first time it was like, oh, one guy got injured. That happens in a fight. Okay, that was the first time it was scheduled. Second time it was scheduled, the other guy got sick. Right, the tiramisu incident.
Oh,
Okay, that was weird, but
I
it
forgot about that
happens.
one.
Yeah. Third one, someone got injured again. Okay, a little strange. Fourth time, the fourth time, there were cables on the ground at a press event, and a world-class fighter, a guy who beats up other people and tries to kill them for a living while trying not to die from another guy who's trying to do the same thing, tripped over a wire and tore his knee apart. And the UFC was like, okay, all right, we're gonna put a pause on this. We'll try this again later. Years go by. Neither one of them gets injured. Neither one of them loses a fight. The world has lined up for this moment. And the UFC is like, okay, let's schedule it for like April or something. Why so far out? Oh, just in case. Just in case. So then in December, when the first cases, like November, when the first cases show up, the UFC, like I guarantee you, the UFC was like, oh shit, we did this. We should have had this already. They should have moved it to January and got it out of the way
Right.
because the world does not want this fight to happen so bad that it literally is killing millions of people so that Tony and Khabib never fight.
All right. If we're gonna go down the
Damn
conspiracy
it!
theory road, China had this happen so that the greatest fight of the year ends up being the strawweight fight. No other
Oh
fight takes
shit,
place.
man! What a bunch of forethought too.
Nope.
Like they had to realize ahead of time that it was going to be a good fight. Good grief. Yeah, man, it wasn't. So it's not just that fight that bums me out because obviously everybody wants that fight to happen, and if they can, oh, did you see where they're eyeing to put
No.
that fight on? It's a little island that the United States has control over.
Guam?
Yup. Yup. I don't have
Man,
my
if you're at Anderson Air Force Base, whew, that's the win of the century if they actually have that fight there.
so I don't have my like my tweet up, but right when they started canceling these fights, I'm like the UFC needs to buy up a private island right now so that they can have this event there. They can test everybody before they go, make sure nobody's carrying, get everybody there,
I
and
know
then
exactly where it needs to be. Wake Island.
where's that?
So it's in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It is.
Okay.
It is still manned. It is an airplane gas stop. They
Oh,
still have an airfield there. You can drive from one end to the other in 60 seconds, and there's like 5 people that live there.
all
That
right.
is where the UFC just needs to build a ring.
Well, they've done that before. They
I
did it
know.
in Saudi Arabia.
You
We're good.
you just build a ring, clear it out for like 2 weeks, and then you can have all the fights you want there.
Yeah, I suggested like them buying an island and then having it there. Um, so I think again, I mention him all the time. Luke Thomas has been like a voice of reason in all this stuff, where people are always like, "Oh, we need to have this fight. These fights need to happen. All these fighters aren't going to get paid," which is terrible, by the way. I don't
Yeah,
think we
UFC
need.
needs to do a salary.
Yeah, I don't think we need to
They,
go into fighter pay again. But this is one of those
they need a
times
fighter
where,
salary.
yeah, they need to pay him. Because Scott Coker is doing a pretty good job of that, paying Bellator fighters, taking care of them. So Luke Thomas has been mentioning, like, guys, this is bigger than the UFC. This isn't like, I know that we all want to see fights, but they can't do it. Like, you really
Yeah.
can't. Not with the current protocol, especially in the United States that we have. Like, things need to be a lot more stringent. We need to have a lot more control of the people going in, coming out, and we need to get testing in order so that we can make sure that everybody is clean before we start doing any of this stuff. And um, I agree that all that. I agree with everything he says, but I also know that there is like, it's a logistics nightmare, but it's a possibility. You can
Hold on.
literally go to an island and do
I got
this.
I got this because you already gave us the answer. What is a little island, or what is a little nation, a little city-state that seems to have things under control with
Oh,
a
Singapore. Hell
huge
yeah.
population that loves entertainment and already has great fights?
Yeah, one is based out of there. Let's go to Singapore, baby.
Yeah.
Let's do some cross. Here it is. This is the cross promotion. This is what we needed. That we needed a pandemic
UFC
to
is
get
like,
some cross
hey, we
promotion.
threw you some stars. We need this. You want this fight in Singapore. We'll give you the undercard. You can throw some one fighters on the undercard. Boom. Let's bring
That'd
it
be
all together.
sick. You
Right?
know that's not going to happen. Dana
I,
White will never let that shit happen.
but that would be it's perfect.
I know it would be perfect. Like, you have a
Return
nation
of
that
Sage
has it under
Northcutt to a
control.
UFC card as a representation of one. Come on.
I mean, I guess I would go
It's-
with I would go with DJ
yeah, DJ, but
and
still.
Eddie Alvarez.
Yeah, see?
Oh
See?
yeah, yeah. So, oh, and you could put him on the same, because he's a 155er. Uh huh.
Mhm.
Oh, I like this. This is a good idea. All right, call Dana. Let's get on the
Yeah,
phone.
come on.
So, um, the other big bummer for me wasn't the fact that this one fight wasn't happening. It was the um, just the gigantic array, like, just the list of fights that aren't going to be happening, including the one this weekend, which is
Just
this
sports.
weekend.
Sports are gone.
Yeah,
There's no more sports.
yeah. I mean,
I mean that's
I'm okay with that. It's not. I can find other ways to entertain myself, and I understand that people might have more of a vested interest in this kind of stuff. I get it,
is
but
there anyone that won more than NFL out of this?
oh yeah, because they're off. They're off season.
Yeah.
Yeah, it screwed over the XFL, that's for sure. There was I don't know. There was a lot of fights that were coming up that were really good, and like really interesting, some really interesting prospects. Um, but I think the UFC and MMA in general, any MMA organization, will be able to handle this in stride a lot more smoothly than a fixed organization like the MLB,
Oh, yeah.
NBA, NFL, NHL, because they have a schedule and they
And the
have
UFC
events.
also doesn't necessarily rely on stadium ticket sales.
Well,
Like
that's
it's
what I
part of
mean.
their business model, but like they can figure it out.
Yeah, like they have their contract with ESPN. Like, they
Yeah.
don't need anything else anymore.
They can do it Ultimate Fighter style, basically in a room with like no one but the coaches. And
Yeah, did you watch the UFC Brasilia fights.
I heard about them. I didn't watch them.
Yeah, it was weird, man. Like it was
Yeah.
silent. There was a bug that flew over the octagon at one point. And I didn't have a problem with anything. There were some funny moments, like there was like some muscle memory stuff where like Bisping would be like, "All right, let's hear it for him," like he's talking to people, and he recognized it almost immediately, but he kept doing it. Like it was just one of those things where it was like there were some funny things, and going forward, if no one ever told you that there were no people and you watched that thing, like you wouldn't realize it unless somebody brought it up.
Yeah.
But
Does
the
that really
one thing.
show the stands much?
No, but the one thing that bugged the shit out of me, well, that brings up what we talked about last time with the lighting. Uh, uh. Um, the one thing that bugged the shit out of me was like they had a blue screen behind the commentators.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's like, are you gonna put people in there in post? Why did you do that? Like we know that there's nobody there. What are you hiding?
I wonder if they were
Why?
actually thinking that. They might have legitimately been thinking, like, we'll put something here post. And then they're like, ah, shit.
Just a bunch of people like, hey, like, oh my god,
It's like
clearly
from the
green
freaking
screened in.
UFC 2 or
Yeah,
3 game or whatever
yeah,
it is. Just like
yeah.
a bunch of bobblehead people.
It's just people from like an NBA crowd in like video NBA 2K.
Oh,
Oh my god.
just dub in a bunch of screams from previous UFCs.
Oh yeah, they could do that.
For some reason, that brought up like one of the most random facts I learned today. Do you know whenever you see like trained bears in movies, you never actually hear them growl?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, because apparently, like, that's one thing that training wise, you can't train a bear to growl because they only growl when they're actually upset. So they train them just to open their mouths and salivate, but they don't make noise, and then they dub over it with growls afterwards.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah,
What
I don't
what
know.
was the
For
name of the
some,
bear? Do you remember
it's
the
like
name of
Benny the bear or something, or start
Benny
with a
or
B.
Bruce?
Bruce. It was some
Yeah,
bear that
the
was in like
grizzly.
every movie for like 20
Yes.
years, basically. He was
Yeah, I
like the
remember because
grizzly
he
bear.
was in
But yeah, you
the
never
Great
actually heard him
Outdoors.
growl on camera, even though like he'll sit there and open his mouth.
Yeah, okay. I mean that makes
I don't know.
sense.
For some reason, I just brought that to mind.
Speaking of bears, I started following that oh my god. Oleanic. Yeah, the
Oh,
guy who does the Ezekiel chokes. There is no way that guy's in his 40s. Mm-mm. Nope. Nope. He's got to be in mid 70s. There's just no way. Like I've seen training footage of him, and I've like he posted like a picture like, "Hey, look when I was 14," and he still looks like he's 25. I'm like, nope, nope.
well, he's just one of those guys, you know, had a full beard when he was in like 5th grade.
My buddy is like that. He was losing his hair. I mean, I'm losing my hair now, but he was losing his hair back in 6th grade, and he had a full
if we're
beard, like he was shaving in 6th grade.
if we're still doing this for 2 years from now, it's gonna be straight silver.
Oh, I mean, I'm just gonna shave my head. I'm over it.
Trust
I
me,
gotta.
I'm already. You can't see in the lighting right yet, but just silver, just coming in. I'm
Nice.
getting gray hairs like crazy.
This is awesome.
I know.
Be it getting older and losing
I'm
all of
I'm
your
hit
like
32
visuals,
and just.
just hitting a fucking wall at 32. Just waking up one day. Oh God. Oh, where'd all my hair go? Why are my balls stuck to the floor? Son of a.
You're not already there? What?
Yeah, dude. No, I've had this thing since I was in my early 20s, probably even as a teenager, where, I remember, I forget which comedian would talk about it. Like when he got out of bed in the morning, it sounded like he was stepping on packing peanuts or just as he walked to the bathroom. Like I've had that since I was
Oh,
definitely
yeah.
in my early 20s.
Just joints cracking and clicking.
Yeah. Yeah, it's because I've been beating the shit out of my body since I
Because I
was
don't
like
stretch enough
15 years
before,
old. Yeah,
after,
for
or
anything.
ever. Yeah.
Dude, oh man,
Uh,
they closed my go. They closed the gym. They closed the gym.
now you
Not
now you see
cool,
my
man.
wonderful investment in my basement has paid off.
Yeah, and my heavy bag is at the gym. I know. It's not like I would have been able to use it anyway. My garage is full of shit, so I can't even use it. But I, like I've been on the bike for hours. I went for a run today. Like I mean, actually, it was a lot of fun because the girls came with. Like, so Ashley and the girls, like, we went for like a 1.5 mile run,
Nice.
which they never do. The girls were on their bikes. Then I have some workout equipment at the house, like bands and things like that. So I've been able to do that. But I can't believe he closed the gym because
I should
the
send, I should send you the workout I did today. I think you could do it. I don't think you need much equipment for it.
Yeah, I'm still trying to stay active, but I also realize like, hey, maybe this is a sign that I should just let my body recover because I've been beating the crap out of it for a while now.
Yeah.
Um, but there was the ordinance or the thing that Pritzker put out was to like reduce like limit the gatherings of 50 or more, right?
Mhm.
So the gym that I go to is really small. There's definitely not 50 people in that place at any given time. Um, but the ordinance kept changing. So the owner of the gym was like, hey, I should just close it down just to be safe. Understandable. I have no ill will towards him whatsoever. It just makes me upset because I want to go work out.
Yeah, I've just been running the trails. Luckily, I have a nice home gym, which I've
Hold on, I
dropped.
have gym news. What does he want?
He's going to find out, like, after the next 2 weeks, if the state is okay with it, if he opens slowly and allows time slots.
Oh, and then we're on one of the time slots?
He asked who would be interested, and I said yes. The 2 hour time slot, you get 1 day a week.
Sweet. I mean, that's fine. I'll take it.
Because with
That's a
all
great
the
idea.
eating and getting ready for
I
all
know.
these shows coming up, like, they're fucking pissed because
Well, those shows aren't going to happen anyway, so it
I
doesn't
know
matter.
they're all canceled, but that's what I mean. So,
Canceled.
yeah.
Sweet. All right.
Time slots. I like it.
Yeah, time slots plus also it's like an individual thing. Like I said, it's a really small gym. Yeah, she just came over. Like he messaged everybody. So yeah,
Good for y'all.
dude, I've never been forced to not go to not go to the gym. It's really weird, and I think that's the thing that I miss most. It's because like been a part of my life for the past 15 years, almost, and it's been like a pretty consistent thing, especially for the last 10 years. I don't think I've ever spent more than a week out of a gym. And it hasn't been,
Yeah.
they closed it on Tuesday. So yeah, yesterday was the first day it was closed, but it doesn't look like it's going to be open for like a couple weeks. And
Well, I'll send you some of the shit I'm doing. It's fun.
my
They're good
so
workouts.
my buddy, his mom has him in quarantine. He doesn't have anything. It's just I was like,
Two
hey
of the
man, what are
people
you
that
up
I
to?
work with are home in quarantine, and I'm waiting for the test results to figure out if I have to go
Oh,
get tested. I know. Exciting.
oh, sweet. Yeah, I asked him if he wanted to hang out like last week, and he was like, "No, my mom's got me stuck in the house. I can't leave." I'm like, "Okay, I mean that makes sense." But guess who has all the workout equipment in his house and doesn't use it?
Buddy.
Yeah, I know. Oh, you know what? He has it at his other house. I wonder.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I might ask him. He listens to these too. Hey,
Oh,
Charlie,
good.
let me use your
Hey, Charlie, be a bro. Come on.
let me use your
Be a
house so I
bro.
can work out. I'll wipe everything down. Um,
Also, thanks for listening.
yeah, jeez. Um, yeah, there's some other things that I realized when all this started. When people are like, oh man, I can't do anything. Like my life hasn't changed that much, so I really don't have a lot of interactions with people. Like my life has kind of been like quarantine-esque for the past 12 years anyway.
Subtly training for this.
Everybody's these doomsday preppers and they've got like bunkers and shit but they're still going out and partying and hanging with their bros. Like me, I just sit at home anyway, so like this isn't that much of a change for me.
And you can just go take their bunker. You'll be fine.
Oh, okay. So I know everybody's talked about this already, but what's going on with toilet paper?
Uh,
Why are people buying all the toilet paper? I don't. That's the one commodity that makes no sense to me.
I think it is. I think it's literally just the demand. I think it's one of those things that it started happening someplace regionally, and then it got reported on, and then the reports of toilet paper being bought out drove people to go to try and get it. But like, I think it was just one of that snowball effect.
It's just probably one guy with really poor technique, and he had to buy a bunch.
If they had reported that laundry detergent was getting bought out, I guarantee you that would be what ended up turning into a snowball effect of getting bought out. Like legitimately, I think that like out of all the things that kind of got influenced by the media, I would say that was probably one of the number one things that really got influenced is essentially that kind of panic buy. Because I just think whatever story started that is probably what led to a cascade of it happening more and then it getting reported on more. Like if there was a focus on another product, that made more sense, that might have caused a little bit more of a cascade of that. But like, yeah. Also, hey, crazies, if this is the end of the world, you're gonna run out of toilet paper, and you don't really know.
Yeah.
Why would people not just be buying rags? just, just buy rags. You can wash them.
What bugs me the most about people buying all the toilet paper is
Our
like
supply
how
chains
bad.
aren't built for surplus.
Yeah, I know.
If everyone just went about their normal life and bought stuff at the same rate, nothing would be gone.
Nothing,
Like
no.
our supply chains haven't actually been impacted. No one needs to stock up on anything. Just
No.
go about. The only reason that the shelves are empty is because people freaked out. If you just bought your regular stuff, everyone would be fine right now.
That's the first thing. So I asked my grandma. I asked her, I'm like, hey, how are you guys doing? Like making sure that they're not going out or anything. And they were like, yeah, we're fine. We have plenty of food and toilet paper. Like that's the first thing my grandma said to me.
The only person I know that's legitimately been affected by this is my mom.
Because she needed toilet paper?
Well, because she owns a hair salon. So she buys in bulk every
Ah.
2 weeks for her salon. Well, guess what? She bought it a week before the toilet paper scare. And then she didn't realize how bad the toilet paper frenzy was going to be. So like 2 days ago, she's running around trying to find toilet paper. Costco, Jewel, everywhere, just out.
Do you see how people are getting it now?
She normally just gets it from Costco every 2 weeks. And then she's good. And she has to
See-
buy in bulk because she owns a business.
I mean, do you see how people are getting it now, though? They're going to like McDonald's and stuff, and they bring a drill, and then they just unspool it onto the drill. Hey, that's technically not illegal. So
It's definitely illegal.
no, it's not. You're not stealing anything. You're using
destruction of
toilet
property.
paper. No,
Property
no.
damage.
No. They're taking the drill and putting a bit on it, and then unwinding the toilet paper, and then respooling it onto their thing, and then they're taking the roll with them.
Just don't. Ah.
Oh man, human ingenuity knows no bounds.
I know, right?
Man, you gonna tell me I can't get toilet paper? Bullshit! I got me one of them Milwaukee drills. I'm gonna get some.
People are interesting. I will give them that. Well, on that note, I think I'm gonna go grab some dinner.
Okay. So let's see. I work tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow, Friday, Saturday. So probably catch up again on Sunday.
I mean, legitimately, I am home until I don't know when. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, we might be able to catch up then sooner than that.
We could do a couple small episodes here and there.
Okay. Anywho, hope you and your family are all doing well. I hope the craziness doesn't hit you guys out there, even though you guys kind of live in the worst spot.
Yeah, but not really.
Well, oh yeah, you don't. You specifically. Oh, you're right. You don't. You're on the other side.
The state is getting hit hard. We're fine.
Yeah.
Granted, there has been confirmed case on base, but
Oh my god.
everything's fine. I know. It's gonna happen everywhere. Everyone.
No,
just
I
needs
know,
to-
I know. Everybody just needs to understand that they're probably gonna get it at some point, and they just have to avoid if they are an old person, they need to quarantine themselves, and if they
What we don't want to do is get it at a rate in which we overwhelm the medical system of the United States. That's what we're trying to do.
yeah, that's
Flatten the curve. I
the
know.
biggest issue I have, like honestly, the biggest issue I have with that is the people's I'm not going to get into like specifics here, but basically people requesting that people go get tested. Like they're saying, "Hey, so as as per the Illinois Health Department, they're suggesting that anybody who has minor symptoms or anybody who's in generally good health and has minor symptoms that might be totally unrelated, you just might have a cold.
Yeah.
Instead of going to the doctor, instead of going to the hospital or going to the emergency room, just quarantine yourself and wait it out. And if you feel better, then that's awesome. Then you're probably fine, and that's it. What they don't want people to do is people with minor symptoms to go to the hospital, because effectively what you're doing is you're taking the spot of someone who actually needs it.
Or you're just contributing to the petri dish or infecting yourself because you went to a hospital.
That's what I mean. There's
Hospital overcrowding is not going to solve the issue.
no. So with all that, everybody who's listening to this far, sorry about the downer episode, but that's just where the things are. But there's some highlights in here.
Yeah.
Like UFC Guam. Let's do this shit, bro.
All right.
Let's get out there. UFC Singapore.
We'll post some home workouts on Twitter. What's up?
Oh yeah, I should do that.
Right.
It's just me doing 1,000 push-ups because I'm not creative.
I'll post some home workouts on Twitter. All right, dude.
Lifting my
Yes.
children. All right,
UFC,
dude.
Move to Singapore.
Yes,
Join.
please. All right. You have a good night. Everybody
You
who's
too.
listening. If you're just listening to this, it'll be up on YouTube. If you have any comments or suggestions, throw them below. Like and subscribe and all that nonsense. And I hope everybody has an amazing day. I love y'all. Later, dude.
Have a good one, man. Good episode.